Hi there, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to another LinkedIn Live webinar with ThinScale Technology. And your usual hosts for this evening or for this morning are Giuseppe Stirpe, who is our Head of Support and Engineering. And my name is Lauren Taggart, and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing. So, Pep, it's been a while since we had our last webinar, but really looking forward to this one. In particular, I think it's something that people don't often realize is something that we do here. It's a tool called Device Analytics. It's great. You secure your endpoints. Everybody knows that ThinScale can do that on both corporate and BYOD machines. But what happens when you need to manage and control those endpoints, particularly in a remote setting as well? So this is where device analytics comes into play. So today, Giuseppe is going to take us through what that looks like from a control perspective in our management console, which is the same management console that you control your ThinKiosk and secure remote worker and machines on your endpoints. And then he's also then going to show what that looks like in terms of extracting that data, which is so powerful into reporting APIs. For this particular demo, we're going to use Power BI, which is pretty common we see, and how that can be then dispersed obviously across teams. And then what it looks like to an employee in terms of notifications and things that we can push out to them so that they can understand something is wrong on their endpoint too. So that's a lot to get through in a session, Pep. So I'll hand it over to you to kick off the demo.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome, folks. Good afternoon, morning, and yeah, the usual faces are here. So yeah, we can dive deep straight away. I just want to preface something. So the way, like, I've been with ThinScale 8 years almost. So I went through, let's say, 3 different phases. We were thin client conversion, the leading software for securing bring your own device, and obviously with the power came the responsibility of collecting data. And one of the asks from our clients were telemetry data. So yes, we know we can convert thin clients. We know we can secure bring your own device. There was a missing piece in this never-ending puzzle, which was data, extracting the data, seeing the data, especially for those remote users. And what we decide to do is what I'm going to show you today, which is the device analytic piece. There is lots of data that we can collect, but from an endpoint point of view, we decide to go live with the most important one, which were CPU memory, latency, jitter, download speed, and upload speed. From a configuration point of view, the usual brand old new device portal, which is obviously managed in our cloud. And you have different options. I hope you guys can see my screen and the hosts can see my screen. If you can't, please raise your hand virtually or send a message to Lauren. But if you can, so it's just another configuration option within the device portal. We have obviously a name and a title, and then we can go deeper into the configurations. The latency test is where administrator will select or create URLs where every time the secure session starts, we ping their host, we do our calculation, and we will check for the latency and the jitter value based on the given URL. Internet host check is purely a ping to that host name to make sure that the machine has an internet capability enabled, because if we cannot do those check, then we will not be able to do the latency and the jitter check. So this one is the first, I'd say, the first step that we do when the secure session starts.
Yep.
Windows logon data, it's essentially retrieving system event viewer logs and sending to our device portal. You will never have access to all the event viewer from an LOB, from a remote LOB point of view. But during diagnostic or during issue, it's good to have a snapshot of what happened within that time frame. Let's say I had 10 users yesterday with a VPN issue, or I had 10 users yesterday with Office issue. I can argue it's either ThinScale issue or the company using ThinScale issue. So to pinpoint the real issue, we will grab the system event viewer, and then we can show those events within the device portal itself. User notification is purely on the end. client side. So let's say you are running an Excel macros and it's very big. Let's say an HR LOB has the task of running a macros on the or within the secure session. If your PC is not as powerful as it should be, you will consume CPU and memory. What we can do with the user notification, we can show a message saying your PC has high, or whichever message you want. Obviously, it's fully customizable here, and let the user know that maybe you should close perhaps 5 tabs of Chrome and you should focus only on doing the macros within Excel, or vice versa. Maybe you need to use Chrome, but you still have the macros running in the background. So you can generate a specific message telling the user that the machine has a capacity issue. Again, this is not a ThinScale issue. This is not our customers or company issues. It's purely to let the user know your machine is low, please close something and move on with the other task. Speed test is what the team says. So we will be performing a speed test against our servers. We have 5 to 6, don't quote me on the numbers. Every day the developers are different regions, so it's very hard to catch up with them. But we have different locations where, so a user in the Philippines, we will go to the closer server to the Philippines, a user in Europe, and I can show you this one through the events later in the demo. A user in India will go to the Indian server and so on. This one essentially means we will start the secure session. We will wait 15 seconds, so we will give the time to the secure session to initiate properly. We will start the ping or the speed test for 60 seconds, and then we will show the data across all the devices within the device portal. And then the data collection, obviously CPU, memory, and network utilization. If you look at the events, if you look at the interval, I've set very, very small interval. So during the demo, you will see those notifications popping up. Realistically, on a production level environment, you don't want to show a message every 2 minutes to the user. Obviously, I have 30 minutes. Lauren will start asking questions. The guys will start asking questions. I need to show you everything as fast as possible. But this is the main configuration, what we call a device analytics profile. From a device point of view, assuming the configuration is running properly, I have a DA demo ready for you guys. This is a brand new Windows 11 box. If we go to the device analytics tab, I will do 6 hours just because obviously I did my homework and I was testing the profiles. I wanted to show you as much data as possible, and I want to explain why we see this type of data versus not data. So this morning, I installed the ThinScale software on a VM, and I simply use a CPU and memory stress tool. Started for 3 minutes, stopped it. Started, stopped it. Started, stopped it, and then I log off from the session. You can see this graph that goes up to 100%, and I set 60% the memory because obviously this is a shared host. I didn't want to stop the other engineer from using the other virtual machine. So I went up and down just by running the test tool. I stopped it, CPU went down, I relaunched it again, and so on. And then I said, okay, I'm happy with the configuration. I log off from the ThinScale, which is in SRW mode, and leave it. Reason why you see no data here is because we are not collecting the data outside the secure session. And this is important to know, guys. PCI, HIPAA, all the GDPR policy, we are only grabbing the data which would be utilized from you guys when in session. If a machine has an issue outside the session in terms of CPU and memory utilization, number one, is not a ThinScale issue, is outside our scope. At the same time, is not our company or company that utilize our software issue. You don't own the PC, you don't control what they do outside the secure session. What you need to check is if the CPU or memory or the risk read and write is going very high during the quote-unquote working hours. Maybe you do flexible hours, doesn't really matter, but if you know a user works between 9 and 5, realistically, especially if they're doing everything on one VDI, or they're using a web apps, or if they're using a local application, it should have a steady linear value. Unless, again, back to our conversation prior, they're using macros for 20 minutes, or they're running a very heavy task for half an hour. You should never see those spikes on a regular, fully stable working machine. If that is the case, then you can start pinpointing the issue over, let's say, a 1 week time frame. Obviously, I don't have enough data for you to show you back in 2 weeks, but if you have spikes or random spikes or temporary spikes, something is going on that machine. And if we move through the network, realistically, and I will explain all of this one, guys, but you can see here, right? So I start my session, and my ping, or my speed test, should say, sorry, it goes between 800 megabytes download, 200 megabytes upload, and so on. And then you have the jitter and latency, which is around 2000 milliseconds or 200 milliseconds, depending on the location. The packet loss, I can connect the packet loss when I was stress testing the CPU and the memory. The machine was so busy, I couldn't even click anything on the machine because everything was maxed out, and obviously network was losing packets. If you go down, I'll show you this guy here. Again, I can zoom it for you guys. If it's too small, please let me know in the comments. But I have 3 locations, and this one is very important to understand, guys. I have Microsoft, Google, local ISP, and I call it show slow URL, purely to show you the difference in network latency and jitter. Google and Microsoft, usually you go to the closest server to you. So I'm in Ireland, I'm assuming I will go to Microsoft.com or Google.com. They're based in Dublin. So the server is very fast. And you can see that the latency and the jitters are minimal, almost zero. I can see a spike on Microsoft, it's 5-10 milliseconds. But if I go to the slow URL, which is a Philippine URL, obviously the farther I go east from my actual location, the higher the latency will be, or west, depending obviously on your location. But realistically, you should always have or look for very high value for download and upload, and very low value for latency. And this one is for me at least. I'm supporting you guys, you ThinScale employees remotely, and I know straight away that perhaps it's not a ThinScale issue, it's just a broadband issue.
Which is often the case, yeah.
Which is often the case, exactly. What happens usually is, hi, company X, my network is bad. And the first thing they say, and I've seen it, 8 years I've seen them all, you install ThinScale, you install the Secure Remote Worker, and the Secure Remote Worker broke my network. Or you install Citrix, or you install VMware, or you install Software X. As soon as you install something, they always going to blame Software X. Always. Because, yesterday was working, today is not working. What happened? From this graph, you will be able to see, especially from the local ISP point of view, if the local ISP diagram is very, very high, it means that the connection between the router at your house to the ISP box in your end of the road or in the next neighbor on the next block has an issue. The problem is not going from the ISP box to the outside network. The problem is your house to the ISP. So you can tell, and I'm sorry for all the Johns and the Marys that are listening. John, this is not a ThinScale/company issue. There is an issue with your network. Can you disconnect perhaps Secure Remote Worker or ThinKiosk and go to Google.com or Microsoft.com? Is it fast? Is it responsive? Usually the answer will be yes, but we can see from the data that that is not the case. And you can start pinpointing, and perhaps, and I'm going to be very frank with you, wash your hands, say, this is not our issue, fix your network, and then come back to us. Or this is not company X issue, fix your network and then come back to us. Because realistically, you want to, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, Laura, you want to work smarter rather than, you can't have 200 calls a day with those, remote users. You need to be able to analyze the data and pinpoint the issue straight away.
Yeah, and I think that's where we see, a lot of our customers that use this, it's more in that proactive approach around, particularly whenever it comes to broadband speeds, because talking to a lot of our customers, I think it ranges kind of between the 60 to 80% of tickets logged to their first line support are actually broadband issues. So imagine being able to decrease that. And I know I've spoke to a couple of customers that have been able to decrease that. I think the average is about 37%. So imagine decreasing the amount of tickets that are going to your desk by 37%. It's huge. So these are the types of things that we see this being used for in a proactive setting. And that's just on the broadband speed issue on it by itself.
And yeah, spot on. And if I keep scrolling down, so I wanted to show this one so you will understand. So this morning I had a VPN connected to my to an India location. I launched my secure session. You can see that machine grabbed Central India ThinScale's server to do the ping or to do the speed test, right? You can see. So we went from 280, 72, very high jitter, very high latency. Same for the other 2 runs that I've done with the secure session. Yeah. Remove the VPN, disconnect the VPN. Obviously, my machine is in Ireland, or it's hosted in Ireland, connected to our ThinScale speed test in West Europe, and you could see the difference in speed straight away. I'm thinking about these guys. I need, for security reason, obviously, I need a VPN to connect to the host, and then I have a VPN within the host. So you are having a different layer from a network point of view. So I expect the network to be slower, but as soon as I remove the other VPN, you can see that the speed increased drastically, while the jitter and the latency reduced drastically. So these are the type of data you need to look at and see if there is a pattern. Do they have kids at home that are coming back from school and all of a sudden they start streaming on Twitch or streaming on
whatever the kids are on tonight,
and they start playing a PlayStation Live, and obviously that will have an impact, especially if it's a shared broadband, it's not wired, it's all Wi-Fi. That will have an impact on the level of network connectivity your remote worker will have at home. And the last one is obviously where I'm located. So the last time I checked with the device analytics was 7:37 this morning. I'm in Ireland, and then the city is Dublin. When I start talking, I just boom, 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 boom. Before I move to the client, are there any questions from the audience? If not, I will switch my machine, or I will switch this one to this screen. You can see.
Yeah, I think that this is really useful, Pep, to show the guys, well, what does that look like? You know, from an admin side, this is all great, but how can we be proactive to our employees and let them know that there's an issue? Because a lot of people may not be IT literate in terms of understanding that, oh, if something's not, a secure remote worker is not working, it has to be a secure remote worker, right? Like you said, where a lot of the time it's a broadband issue, right? So how can we notify and tell the employees about this?
Yeah, that's essentially it. Don't look at the data analytics, that device analytics as a security functionality. We are not securing anything. We are just giving you the data that you can use to overcome potential issue or future issue, or perhaps you will have a pattern that type of location where you do your new onboarding or your new talent acquisition is bad because the device analytics run for 2 weeks. Latency was bad, jitter was bad, the download and upload speed never surpasses 20 megabytes each. Yeah. Do you really want to have location of your employees working from there if they're going to have constant calls or VoIP calls or Zoom calls? It's something to think about it. So from a secure remote worker point of view, visually nothing changed. The device analytics modules is running in the back, collecting data, checking the events from a system event viewer point of view, especially if you're collecting every 2 minutes like me. I hope I will have, I'm going to start clicking application just because my value are very low. So as soon as I start opening something, you should see a system notification tray, notification coming and say, oh, you're running very high memory and CPU. You will not see this on a production, especially if you use value like 65%, 70%, and so on. But I will try my best to show you. If not, I have, I don't know if I need to copyrights, but Heavy Load is a free Here we go. I don't even have to launch it. So can you see here, CPU use high and memory use highs. Contact company support if these messages persist. So this one is an end client messenger. Oh, my CPU is high and my memory is high. What am I doing? I'm using again Excel. Do I have 20 tabs of Chrome opened? Okay, let me close something and see if this message appears again. You will see this message coming every 2 minutes now, just obviously based on the value I have on the device portal. But this essentially, you will not see the device analytics interrupting or be on top of your workload. Everything is in the background, and we are just feeding the device portal with data coming from the secure worker or the ThinKiosks machine. Last point I want to make, hopefully you will appreciate it, guys, is I have the data. What do I do with it?
Yeah, that's always the question. Or how can I share this with others? Right, like you mentioned TA and those type of individuals that might not have access to the console. How can we extract operations? I know love this in terms of how we can fill it out.
From a device portal point of view, there is so much we can show. Think about this one is still an HTML page, so you cannot. The more you add, the more. And this is the way I feel it. You don't want to overload the administrator with a lot of data, which they don't understand, or they understand, but it's too much. So what we can give you guys is what we call a report API. We will enable the API for you in the backend. You can go through your account manager if you want that to be done today, tomorrow, in the next week. You can test it out if you want to. And then we use Power BI to extract that data via those APIs, and then you can do whatever you want with that data. I use Power BI because I like Power BI. You can have blue, pink, you can have everything you want. You can essentially, this is the access to your data, use it and do it whatever you want. This one is, guys, obviously, again, I need to show myself as the best host and the best streamer here. So I inject my tenant with fake devices. Those are 4,000 devices. Not all of them. 20 perhaps are real, because obviously all the support engineer devices, but the rest are fake machine just because I needed the data to be huge to show you guys. So from a device point of view, you can see I set random GUIDs, random OS version, random manufacturer, and then obviously I call demo.com. And I have injected machine seed and obviously all the version of the software that we can deploy. This one is the same, but this one is just the active devices at the time of where the report was extracted, because it can be online one day, offline tomorrow, online for 10 hours, offline tomorrow. So this one is the amount of time that device launched the secure remote worker and the total hours. So
very good.
This ES 10.3 launched the device 11 times. Sorry, launched the session 11 times. Session details, the same. So AB started the session on the 19. The last offset was the 26. This guy worked 176 hours. Device that we are not using, validation tool data. So, based on the other live webinar we did, we have 4 different products, right? We have the validation tool for the talent acquisition, secure remote worker, ThinKiosks, device analytics, VDA, and so on. I can go on and on, but realistically, the main products are validation tool pre-hire. If you pass the hire, you install secure remote worker on ThinKiosks, and then the DA. This one is just a sample of data that you can extract from the report API saying, okay, give me all the hardware manufacturer and the CPU, and if they're running a virtual machine or a monitor count of the OS version of all the validation tools that run that specific time frame.
And that's massive, obviously, on onboarding and hiring, and a lot of talent acquisition folks that I talk to say that this is what we need, right? And they want to match it up. So this in particular is quite useful, I think, for those individuals whenever it comes to it's great to have the people, but do those individuals have the right device that we need, and how can we get that in order to know. And also, as you mentioned too, Pep, we have a lot of customers that talk to us and say, like, we're thinking about hiring in a different state. We're not quite sure yet, but we want to kind of put feelers out. And this type of information is particularly useful in understanding where may or may not be a good location to hire.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have explained better. And if you think about all the work all the work we have done, even with the iSIMS integration for the talent acquisition, the validation tool can simply be injected through your iSIMS. They run the validation tool, connect to the iSIMS, and then interchange the data. So
system, that's not
true. Yes.
So that and we've seen that happen a lot, and particularly whenever it's, you might put up a post for a job application and you get 1,000, sometimes 10,000 applicants. How can you whittle that down? And there may be a ton of really good applicants in terms of their CVs and in terms of their skill set, and then you add that extra layer of their device as well, because you want maybe a BYOD model on top of that, and that then helps filter that down the funnel as well for you.
This one is exactly the same data, guys. This is exactly the same diagram, or just different data. So the one where more hardware specific numbers, this one is purely the download, the upload, and the jitter and the latency. So you can have a grasp and say, okay, look, 65%, they always have, or the majority have a download speed between 10 and 49. Okay, that's a good size. I can live with that, especially if you're doing, I don't know, again, web apps work and not many calls. You don't have a Zoom call every day and so on. And the last one are patches. So you can report on the missing patches that machine or that user at home might have, or might not have. So I should have said. Oh, stop. I think I covered everything.
That was lovely. Just got it in under the 30 minutes.
Yeah, getting better.
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions. That was a lot of information. I appreciate for the folks to take in on today's session, Pep. I asked you this the last time, and I'll ask you it again, because if someone is super quick speeding through this after we drop, what are maybe the 2-3 key takeaways, aside from buy it now, which is obviously what I want them to do.
Not my job.
What are the key takeaways that you would give the folks listening to today's call?
Yeah, like the first one for me is try it. We can give you access to the device analytics anytime. We can give you access to the report API anytime, especially if you're already a device portal customer. It's there. It's for you guys to use. I use it every day. I like it. Yeah. I love it. I use it. So obviously, I drink my own champagne, especially with you guys supporting the ThinScale employees, so I can see and I can pinpoint errors straight away. You will like the way, just from a report, from a Power BI point of view, you will start to see anomalies based on the numbers. Because for me, and I'm brutally honest, it's very hard to see in just one HTML page or one page in the device portal, because obviously it's a device-based graph. But when you have the aggregation of 10, 20, 100 devices and 90 are fantastic, and then all of a sudden you see spikes or whatever, depending on the way you create the graphs in Power BI. So, oh, I didn't know about that. John, can I have a chat? For me, it's very useful just to pinpoint an issue that perhaps even John didn't know he had.
Very good.
And now you put me on the spot. Third takeaway. I'm thinking about it. I'll be sneaky about it. How many times do you run a speed test on your PC, Lauren?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. But
if you're like me, so especially in Ireland, if you're paying for a service, you are expected to get as close as possible to the number of gigabit that you're paying for, right? So I know I went for a fast broadband, and sometimes I didn't have the numbers physically on my screen that I was paying for. And instead of ringing company X, say, I'm paying for X, you're giving me half of it, but you do. By having this tool constantly monitoring my network, I say, okay, I'm around 800, acceptable, 700, acceptable, 3, 4 o'clock, my daughter comes back, she switches on the Netflix or Apple TV or whatever, then you can see the drop straight away, because obviously it's a shared network, right? And you have Alexa and all the smart home gadget. I can see straight away, not a lot, but I can see a decline between 400 and 500. I cannot be mad about it, but the fact that I can see it, it's just okay. She's at home, she's playing, she's watching something. There is nothing I can do. But for me, the third takeaway is the ability to see constantly my network activity and the network download and speed at home, rather than every time open speedtest.com or any other speed test URL. Okay, go, wait. So I can do that in the background, multitask, call you, and everybody else. So I'll say those would be my takeaways.
And I know, look, and I know we're at time, but I think I would just add a final takeaway on the other side, being a user of this every day. I am a devil for having too many Excel files, running too many things, be it numbers that I am on a day. It's really useful that I get those notifications of my CPU usage in particular is high. And I know it's because I have about 12 spreadsheets from 12 different things, and I can obviously cancel out of them, and that gets things up and running. So I think particularly for also the users who may not know something's going on, and I'm in IT every day, and sometimes I don't know what's going on with my PC. It's also really, really useful for them also to get their machines ready and be more proficient. So I think that we just went over, marketing team are going to kill me. We just went over the 30-minute slot. Pep, it's a pleasure as always. I really look forward to the next LinkedIn webinar, as I'm sure our audience will too. So until then, that's all from us. So thanks, Pep, for taking today's session.
Thank you, folks. No worries. Bye-bye.